Hey everyone, in this episode we may discuss items such as domestic violence, harrowing scenes, graphic scenes, and things like self-harm. We ask you to always use your discretion when listening or viewing, and be wary of the topics that may arise. Hey everyone, welcome to The Badge and Beyond. This is Danny and Anthony, and today we're going to tackle the subject of the Academy.
Wow. Yeah,
Good times.
I can't wait to get into this topic. It's going to be awesome sauce. No, people, we're doing this because someone asked about Academy life, and I think the Academy sets you up for pretty much hating going back there ever again in your life. Yeah. But look, without further ado, let's jump into it. Danny, you went to the Academy a little bit before I did. Tell me, how was the Academy for you?
Just dandy. Yes, I am one of those that don't want to hear about going back to Goulburn for the Academy ever. I definitely didn't have the rage that some people had. Probably the fact that I don't drink was probably why. With my intake, which would have been the same sort of generation for you, which is that there was two different pathways to get in. There was the sort of the normal, if you've just done high school and you sort of continue on through to Charleston uni course, and you do 3 semesters there, or trimesters. If you were a graduate, had a degree, in any degree, you could do the graduate entry, and they gave you a scholarship. And that's the path I took. And then you skip the first sort of trimester because you've already sort of proven you can handle tertiary education. So they bring you straight in to do basically placement or work experience. So you do that before doing anything at the Academy. I did that for 2 weeks, I think, from memory. You pick a station and you go straight into that. That's what made me become a cop, the placement. That's when I knew I was going to do this. And then you come back to reality and have to do the Academy for 14 weeks, from memory, I think it was.
Yeah.
And that includes everything. That's all your course, your theory work and your practical work, stupid marching and crap, and then your officer survival and a bit of driving and all the other things. But we'll get into that. But that's the part. That's what I had. Were they your two pathways as well?
Same for me. I did the graduate entry. The cool thing for me was I lived off campus.
Yeah, same. I think if you were a graduate, you had to.
Yeah, oftentimes you had to, and then as people dropped out, you could go back and live in the towers, as they called them.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was way better being off campus.
Yeah, 100%.
I lived on campus. So do you remember, they have a thing called Drink and Drill Week, which is when you get to the end of your trimester, you have like a week off, and then you go back and the entire class, graduate or non-graduate entry, go back and stay on the campus, on the Academy grounds for a week. And all you're doing is marching, being told how not to get in trouble, because someone inadvertently always gets in trouble and gets kicked out. You get a whole bunch of lectures and stuff on, feel good, you're about to be a cop, all the rest of this kind of stuff. They go back and redo the background checks yet again. And so, but they call it Drink and Drill Week because you don't have any classes on aside from doing that kind of stuff. You're marching twice a day. So oftentimes the guys are going out late at night. Well, this is my first time on the Academy grounds living. And I think on the Monday, I made a sandwich out of the cafeteria, out of the ham sandwich, salad, whatever. By the Tuesday, I started losing weight rapidly and I couldn't get out of bed. Gastro hit me.
Academy food, mate.
Yeah, everybody, when I got better, which was probably Thursday morning, I couldn't eat solids, but I could drink and still turn up on the parade ground. Everybody's like, oh no, you never eat from the salad bar. You don't make a sandwich. Certainly don't use ham sandwiches, mate. That'll kill you. I'm like, where was anybody telling me this information?
Where's that disclaimer?
Right? Last time I heard, the Academy was running something like around about $1.19 per student per meal was how much they'd ration it down to. So they have this thing where they kind of you'll get a certain meat for breakfast, for dinner one night, and then the next day it will be a slightly different type of that meat for lunch, and then you can tell it's again dinner the next night, but it's gone from being like steak into like steak sandwiches or whatever else into a pie kind of thing. You know, it's like it's just something you're like, no, it's dodgy.
It was like Sizzler's genetic dysfunctional cousin that was expired, and like a breeding ground for like salmonella. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. To be honest, it's quite embarrassing that it went for so many years, and I don't know if, what's happened in the last few years since we've been out, but definitely want to keep going back there for courses throughout my 17, 18 years there. Yeah, I don't see vast improvements in any capacity, so like I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
But it was just, like, honestly, pull your socks up. It was ridiculous. There, like, schools are heaps better, prisons better. Like, I don't know what was worse, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather go to hospital and enjoy the hospital food. That was vastly
hospital food is
vastly
way better.
superior.
Yeah.
Airport, like on the plane, that food's better. Like I don't know what's actually, it became the benchmark for shit food.
Yeah.
Was the academy. So
and
same
then
as but yeah, you again, bro. For you
I had no
for
idea.
you to make a sandwich
because I was a graduate and I didn't pay. They used to charge the graduates to go in and use the cafeteria thing. So I just used to go to the cafe outside and buy my lunch if I didn't have it. So I'd never been in. And I'm just like, I don't want all these weird fancy meats that look like they've been in a bain-marie for 3 weeks. I'll take the safe option of a ham salad sandwich.
Hell no.
No, that was a bad move.
Yeah.
No one, see, there's multiple things about the academy, though, that make it suck. First of all, even going back there for courses, even at the rank of, like, inspector and stuff, it was just lonely.
Yeah.
There was always, like, this foreboding sense of loneliness. And you get locked inside these rooms. You had shared bathrooms. So you can just imagine these communal bathrooms and stuff like that. And you know what your standard is might not be someone else's. I'm a germaphobe, so this doesn't work for me.
Yep.
There's been like 100 other students have lived in your room at that time if you're on site there. I never had
That's probably where they got the sandwiches from.
Do you remember the best thing about living off campus is you come in the morning and you're like, right, let's do this. And everybody else has lived on campus who's like dragging their ass. Like, And you're like,
it's like the walking.
Boys, what happened? And they're like, oh, there was a fire alarm 3 times last night and they kept getting us out and then we go back to bed and and they're standing out and it's freezing cold in their dressing gowns while they wait for the fire brigade to come, check the alarm, make sure there's no fire. And like that was like a weekly occurrence. I was like, well, this is gold.
Yeah, no, I lived on when I went there for, like at the academy, just obviously when I first joined, I was in the caravan park, right? So right at the entry, when you start to get into Goulburn, there's a caravan park on the left-hand side near the big Maccas and all that, which came in very handy as well. There's servo Maccas and there's caravan park. So I stayed in a caravan, and which was interesting in itself. But, yeah, still prefer that way over staying in the towers. So I had my little sort of setup happening, and it was just getting, there was no Uber in those days. So you could get delivery. There was, if you were willing to spring a bit extra, that some of the 1 or 2 retailers would would deliver food to you. But because there's like maybe 4 all up, right? It became every day is one of those 4 kind of thing in terms of what you're going to eat. But look, for me, I would just do my classes and get the hell out.
Yeah.
And there was nothing else for me to do. So I'd go back to my caravan, do my work, just smashed it because nothing else to do but study.
Yeah.
Right? Because I had no distractions, and I wasn't staying on campus. So I'd just get in the car, drive to my little caravan, do my assignments, and then do my thing, and it was fine.
And that was much the same for me. And honestly, I think it was way better. I was living in like a little semi-detached place. I literally had a mattress on the floor, and like one of those kind of cheap-ass clothes racks to hang all my stuff on in the bedroom. Yeah. But I had a kitchen and stuff. But I'd go to do the courses. I had to do the classes. Usually finish by 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Go home, work out, do some study, cook dinner, do more study, go to bed.
Because we had a bit of flexibility with the timetable, so I arranged it so that...
You had flexibility?
Yeah, there's a bit of flexibility. You could pick which classes you wanted, like on what days. And so I made it so that all the tutes and all the class, so that I ended on a Thursday. So I had Friday off. So I'd jam-pack...
That shit changed for me. That was not...
I jam-packed my week. Monday was horrific, and Thursday I would start, I think, 7 in the morning, finish 9 o'clock at night. Was the last law tute, like law tutorial. And then I would jump in I had my car packed, and I'd drive down to Sydney and go home. So I'd spend, get there by very late Thursday night, just before midnight.
Yep.
Sleep there, and then wake up in the early hours of Monday morning, and then drive back up to Goulburn. That became my thing. So it was freaking exhausting, but I just I needed to go back to Sydney. I just couldn't stay there.
I found I did something similar. You were assigned in my class. We just got assigned classes and groups. But I was lucky there was like a defensive tactics. You either had defensive tactics, which is your shooting, your PT, and your kind of, I guess for want of another word, martial arts stuff in the afternoon or in the morning. And you had then your academic classes and the other way around.
Yeah.
So my academic stuff was in the morning and my defensive tactics were in the afternoon. But Friday afternoon, there was like more academic than defensive tactics stuff. So Friday afternoons were free. So yeah, as soon as I finished Friday lunch, I was out. And the best view of Goulburn is when it's in the rear view mirror, let me tell you. There's no better feeling than driving out of that place. No disrespect to the residents.
To the Goulburn listeners.
Yeah. Those people, if you live in Goulburn, I'm sure it's great. But if you're a cadet or, student at the academy, it sucks.
It was bad.
And I used to come down late on Sunday night, generally. Like, I would leave home about 8 o'clock and drive down. So it's about a 2-hour drive. So rock in about 10 o'clock and then just straight in and get it done. I think, though, for the people watching and listening, the things you need to know about the academy is there's the staff are not generally great to you, right? Like, how there's that point of, you've had a background check, you want to do something good for society, and they just walk around like, "Hat, are you not carrying the bag?" And you've got to carry a bag in your left hand, Like, okay, great. I remember having another student. The week we had to wear. You could wear uniform on the grounds of the academy, but you're not allowed to wear it home. Fair enough. But I think I was in my week of exams, and training rolled my ankle pretty bad before that. So of course I live off campus. I've got to get changed. That was the other pain in the butt. So you'd have to come once you got uniform, come to class or come to the academy, get changed on site, then go to your classes, come back, get changed into PT gear, and then do that, and then come back and change out of your PT gear, potentially back into normal clothes, and then go home. Well, I'm doing my exams, and I've got this bung ankle, and I'm like hobbling around on a crutch. And one of the other students that's not even like junior me going, "You can't drive home in half uniform," because I'm wearing my trousers and going, no one's going to see me because I'm not getting out of the car. I can't stand on one leg to balance and do everything else. Like, basically I've got to sit on the floor to change my trousers. Just a douche. Like, give it a break. There was one sergeant whose name I won't mention because people said he was actually a really good guy, but just every time I came across him, not that I was in trouble, but he was just like on a power trip. I was like, mate, no, like just calm down. I remember he was a sergeant there when I was at the academy as a student. I go back down there as a sergeant to do a driving course, right? I'm doing the driving instructor's course. And of course, it's Goulburn, cold weather, hay fever / flu. And I'm just sitting through one of the most boring, the good part about the driving course is when you're on the circuit doing cool stuff. The learning how to teach people is the boring part when you're just like, coffee to stay awake. And then I'm like, snot's dripping out of me everywhere, and I'm like, oh. having this terrible day, and I walk out to go to have morning tea. It's pissing down with rain. And I didn't put my cap on, my hat.
Oh, no.
And this guy, here I see this guy coming, and he was known as the hat Nazi. I'm like, here we go. And he walks up to me and goes, mate, you're not wearing your hat. And I'm like, I noticed. It's not on my head. He's like, it's a bad example for the students. You should wear it. And by this time, I'm just over. I'm like, you see your 3 chevrons? He's like, yeah. I said, 3 chevrons. You need better than me to tell me. I just kept walking. And he's just like that. He just miffed. He's like, what? Well, I understand there's ways and means, but at the end of the day, also, don't try and talk down to me when I'm a sergeant to another sergeant about a hat when I've got a nose that's red like Rudolph here. Like, I literally had a hanky in my hand. I'm like, just give me a break, mate. Like, just calm down. But you have those people on a power trip that want to boss students around. They want to talk about, oh, I did this, I did that. And I'm like, mate, maybe you went down to the academy because you can't cut the mustard anymore and you've given up.
Yeah, there was, look, there was definitely a lot of that breed there.
Yeah.
But we also had some pretty amazing
There was some great instructors.
They were operational. They were doing like rotations and stuff.
Like we had a guy from, one of my operational safety instructors was like SPSU, which is kind of like regional tactical operations unit, like SWAT team.
Yeah.
Hard guy, like you trained hard with him, but he was a good guy, My other defensive tactics instructor, great guy, always showing us stuff a little bit off the card is just another option.
Yeah.
But yeah, some really good guys, but there were some of those Nazis, and I use that word probably in a terrible way, but yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing. I think for me, the academy basically was, because it's like you've never done this before, this is just, even like you've done uni, you've done school, this is just nothing like you've experienced before. And you're not used to the, suboptimal environment and facilities, but it was a whole new world. So there was still that level of excitement, like, oh, what are we going to do now? I really enjoyed the law lectures. I had
you learned some cool stuff.
I mean, it's very interesting, but for us, it was the crossover between the Traffic Act and the Australian Road Rules. Was in my class. Yeah. So we literally started the first semester when we got all the books, which I've still got now. I kept it as a memento. Traffic Law, New South Wales, this big, never touched it because it got superseded immediately. Yeah. So we get this traffic law, and then they when we go in to actually start the lectures, Australian Road Rules, everyone you're going to have to share it amongst yourselves because it just came out. So there's just this folder, the Australian Road Rules, and it's just like big, and they will photocopy some pages of it, and that's what you're doing because no one actually had, the ARs that you can take home. Well, you'll have this traffic law, they're going to don't even bother looking at it. There's no point. So besides that stupidity, you go into the classes, and at least usually you'd have an instructor who either was a serving officer or still is. Yep. And you had a couple of civilians that were just specialists. They were the Charleston Uni academics sort of thing. But I remember getting a lot out of the cops that were actually teaching. Some of them were actually quite good at it. Yeah. So you could see they had like an education background, and this is what they wanted to do. Maybe they had moved to Goulburn. I don't know why you do that, but whatever, depending on what it was. And so they were doing their thing. But, I enjoyed the anecdotes, the stories, the examples. You could challenge them, asking different questions. That was enjoyable. So I actually enjoyed the classes of the academy, and I found it, I don't say an hour ago, but I found it so much easier than my degree. So it was like in terms of at least the content, you could actually enjoy and digest the content, and it was practical. It wasn't like I'm going to do this essay on whatever, 20,000 words for something that's going to get me nowhere. Yeah. The actual course content itself was relevant to what we were going to do.
That's right. Yeah, I think that was one of the core points is you knew when you were studying it that you were going to have to use this in a couple of months, right? Yeah. You were going to have to employ this. And then one of the best things were when you had cops or former cops, when you didn't understand something like, well, how does this work? And they give you a real life example of, okay, well, this is what happened and this is how we did it. Yeah. And look, there were some guys, like you say, I think my law instructor, really good, made things really easy to understand. because law, if you're not someone who's good at academic subjects and things like that, can be quite it's another world, right? Like you have to understand, reading and interpreting law correctly is its own little thing. But he was like part-time police rescue, you know what I mean? Like, so still operational. So yeah, some of them were really good. We had someone ex-AFP teaching communications, which now as I've moved forward in my career, I was like, that don't add up, but that's okay.
Kind of an oxymoron.
Yeah, no, but honestly, it's a small period of time. I guess the thing that was good about living off campus though was, and I don't know if you found the same thing, is there was like cliques forming and there was like romances and there was like all this other stuff that happened. And, you know, guys getting drunk and getting kicked out and, you know, they'd having, not room inspections, but like they'd have people walking through the dorms, making sure that no one's drinking or doing anything.
Weird. Like, I'm just thinking about all the stories, that's coming back to me.
Yeah.
All the stories of people that got actually kicked out. I mean, one of them, she got kicked out because she actually stole a book from, like, the police library. Like, you're going to be a cop, but you're going to steal...
What?
It was quite funny. I remember there was a big parade. By parade, as in there was a meeting where they call you in and you just sort of line up, and they're like talking about it, and you know it's not on. You can't commit offences. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, of course you can't commit offences. Yeah. Then we found out it's because someone decided to shoplift.
From the place that'll literally give it to you for free as long as you sign it out.
Yeah. Quite funny. And then in one of my firearms classes, one of the instructors again said there's a problem with the junior ranks that sometimes would be coming in on a secondment to be an instructor. So remember there was this female constable. There weren't too many constables in one stripers at the academy. Most of them were more senior than that. Anyway, she was on a massive power trip. She'd be the one that was screaming the loudest, berating the student, whatever. So everyone already hated her guts. And made fun of the fact that they kept calling her constable because everybody else was like sergeant, sir, ma'am,
senior,
and she's just constable, right? Anyway, you'd think just because of that, just take it easy. Like, you're barely 14 months ahead of us. Anyway, during one of the shoots, so there was a night shoot. So there's no lights, the darkness is down. You're actually on. It was you were on your knee, and you were sort of squaring up and shooting at the target. Anyway, one of the guys in my class is, you know, in that pose, like that modified Weaver stance with on one knee sort of on the thing, and she's screaming in his ear. And I don't know what happened. He just got jack of it, and he turned around and he goes to her, "You scream again, I'll just effing shoot you." Well, lights go on. It's panic stations. They're like, you know, number 7, reholster your firearm, blah, blah. I'm like behind this guy. And I'm like, oh, if he turned around and shot, I probably would have copped it. But anyway, they take him out. The problem is the guy's a goose, right?
Yeah.
That was the end of his policing career.
Yeah. There's just, it's really about just keep your head down.
She never came back.
Yeah.
I heard she went on stress leave and whatever. Probably best for everybody. But I'm like, the way things happen, and then they kept telling us other stories of what people were getting themselves into. Yeah. Instructors sleeping with students, getting busted in their rooms.
That happened on you? That happened. Yeah.
There was a lot of that. So then they just getting super strict, and it just wasn't working for them. It's an interesting time.
The instructors sleeping with, it always seemed to be male instructors with female students.
Yeah.
I know for our class, it was like, there was this operational safety training instructor that everybody really liked. Yeah. Apparently even one of the probably better looking girls in the group. And then they were both there one week, and then we turned up and neither of them were there. And like this team, like you have an instructor that's assigned to your class, and everybody's like, Charlie class doesn't have an instructor. Yeah. They've turned up and like literally no one's there, and we're all like, where is this guy? And then one of the students goes, I'll go ask, and like, oh yeah, he's no longer with us and he's been suspended. And like, well, where's, such and such? And oh yeah, she's been pushed out. And like, oh, you just got to keep your head down for like 2 trimesters.
And
it's
it
not
was
hard.
funny. It was funny that then, like, they made it so awkward. So you'd be in a meal room, and all the officers had to sit on one side, and you can't sit next to the students.
Yep.
You can't talk to them. I remember coming back on. I was doing the domestic violence officers instructors course, right? So it was only a couple of us, quite a small, because it was a relatively new system coming out, and I was part of, like, I was representing our region and to deliver the new domestic violence ops. Anyway, so it's a small group. And by then I was a leading senior constable. I'd done about at least 8 years at that stage. So I'm there, I'm in full uniform, and there's the students kind of thing, and I'm just like, hello, like I'm talking to them.
Yeah.
And it was males and females. And then people are like, I'm like, get lost, man. Like really? You guys have a litany of history where there's instructors and students in dorm rooms, and you think the meal room is the place to enforce this line of demarcation, right? So that there's no fraternising with the students.
To understand, in that cafeteria bistro space, they literally put up petitions so that sworn officers and staff have to be on this side and students have to be on this side. Now, this brought me into an issue when I was down there for SPAC, which is Simulated Patrol Assessment Centre. They used to get real police, like sworn police officers from the street to come down and help assess students. And so I went down, I was in State Crime Command, sex crimes, and I've gone down, I'm detective, right? So I wear a suit. Yeah. Well, most of the bloody students, they haven't been issued their uniforms, so they got suits. Yeah. So the rule is, if you're a sworn officer or a staff member, you go to the front of the line because you've got timings and things to get to, and that's just rank has its privileges. So first day, I turn up, I walk to the head of the line, and this kid nearly picks a fight, and he's like, hey, I was here first, you can't push in. And I'm like, fishing around for my ID, going, no, it's okay. And I'm like, oh, okay, sorry, detective. And then I go and sit down, but I didn't recognise, like, I've just sat down. Yeah. And then all of these other students sit down, I'm like, you're not supposed to be... And they're looking at me like we're just sitting with the mature age student that's weird and by himself. And I'm like, no, you can't sit here. I've got to... Oh, man. And then you run out of tables because everybody eats at once. And you're like, well, there's spots in the student zone, not in the staff zone. Yeah. You know, again, hat Nazis walking past going, you're not holding your bag in your left hand. Like, detective, okay. Yeah. No. I think that was good. At least with the detective thing, you can get away with it. It's like the uniform guys kind of leave you alone. Like the hat Nazis down there just go, oh, well, detectives aren't going to do what we want them to do anyway, so we'll just leave them. Yeah. That's the unnecessary rubbish that they brought into it. Oh, you can't, like, shut up. We're just going to have, like, this orgy in the mill room. Like, what's wrong with you? Just stupid. Yeah. I think overall, I think with obviously the firearms, the weaponless control stuff, to an extent. I mean, like, as martial arts people, you and I would have found it extremely lacking. Useless.
Very bad.
We will do a whole nother topic. Because, for those that don't know, Danny's a 6-star black belt Taekwondo and black belt in Taijitsu. Now I'm a black belt in Kung Fu, and I've done like 14 different martial arts. We're both martial artists, and both of us agree that the defensive tactics we got taught at the police academy were flipping useless. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Like, honestly, it was going to be hard to take down a toddler that was unhappy with you with what they taught you. So step away from the rattle. Yeah. So look, we'll do a whole another episode on that, but don't think that was any good. No, the shooting was all right. You had to do your own thing. And I was running classes outside the academy for self-defense, you know, for our PT group. But yeah, obviously the firearm stuff you have to, the dry fire, the live fire, so shooting with real bullets and then shooting with simulated sort of bullets, doing the actual SPACs, as you said, so doing scenarios where you're coming in as the officer in charge or the second officer in charge, and you're sort of supporting each other, learning how to communicate on the radio. The modified driving for your bronze certificate to actually start to learn how to drive a police car, which is once again... we will. That's another good one to go into, but you have to understand at the academy in New South Wales, you don't do your like urgent duty driving course at the academy.
Yeah.
They do 4 hours of just, can you
drive a car?
normally?
Yeah, can you drive a car?
Can you park a car?
Yeah.
Oh, can you drive at 60 kilometres an hour without crashing into a tree that's not even on the course? Like, yeah. Okay, then you get a bronze certificate, which is basically allows you to drive the trucks, but you can't put the flashy lights on.
What I do remember from them with the vehicle, which is wasn't the main focus of the exercise, was doing a dangerous vehicle stop. I enjoyed that. Basically teaching you if there was
But with the racial profiling, were you driving the dangerous car?
No, I was the person that jumped out of the boot and ran. They had to get me.
Hence the reason for the bad back.
And they didn't get me, and I hid in the shed for a good hour. That's another day.
They'd gone on to a whole other class by that time. You were still hiding.
Yeah. It's one of my favourite days at the academy. So you do some nice scenarios that teach you how to do your thing. There are some very good instructors, and you will learn sort of the basic principles of, definitely how to use your, the tools on your belt, how to fill out your police notebook, stuff it's going to be your bread and butter. But overall enjoyable, for me, no. Some others loved it, and I even found them special. But from my perspective, yeah, it was not a great place, and there's just too many. It's always the one or two or three arrogant idiots that ruin it, and the ridiculous over-policing of it.
Yeah. And
you're still not achieving your objective. You just kept going harder and harder in stupid things. Being at the end of the day, it's adult education. No one there is 14.
No.
Right? It's adult education. That's not how you deliver adult education. You don't treat people like children in an adult education environment. It's the only place that'll do that, besides the military, which is where it gets its roots from.
And look, you've got to understand there's a few things here in that. First of all, they're trying to indoctrinate you into a culture, right? And they're trying to break you out of what you were to become the person you will be. So they make it tougher for you so that, you build your resilience and you understand not to, they're a paramilitary organisation. So in some respects, they're trying to make you understand that you follow orders even if you don't know why you do it, because on the street sometimes, especially as a junior person, you don't fully understand what's taking place and why. You just need to know that I need to go there, stand here, or do this or move or whatever else. And when you get told by someone to do it, because it could be your life or someone else's that gets, that is in danger. But there is that point where you're like, if you want to survive the academy, it seems pretty simple and obvious, but it's really just listen, there's this term of being the grey man, which is you don't want to be first, you don't want to be last, you just want to be somewhere in the middle and not get noticed for anything, right? Keep yourself out of trouble, keep your head down, work hard. It's only, for us it was a trimester, it might be a semester, 2 semesters, but when we were down there, they were looking for reasons to punch you.
Yeah.
There was one guy that was in my class and he never turned up for drink and drill week, and then I just literally saw him, I think after I graduated at like train station or something. What happened to you? Did you quit? And he said, no, I saw a guy I used to go to the gym with, got in the car with him, gave me a lift, and we got pulled over by the cops, and then turned out the guy that he knew from the gym was like a roid boy. Yes. So there was a conflict of interest association with a criminal. So, his professional suitability got canned and he's out. And he's done the entire course. He'd done the 2-3 trimesters. And just gone. Whereas now I think recruitment is so low, hence why they're paying people.
Money would have been nice.
Yeah. I think, look, we were pretty lucky. We got scholarships, which was weird that you give, students scholarships that have no dependents and nothing, and then you have guys trying to join that have life experience, and male and female have life experience and families and mortgages and stuff, and we give you nothing.
Yeah.
So those poor guys were going home, and I was working on the weekends as well, but they were going home and they had to deal with family and they had to try to work, and then they were trying to do assignments and stuff, and I couldn't imagine how they were doing it.
And I remember it was weird because you thought you had to do all these things to give yourself an advantage there. I remember I'd been working as security, right, in the lead up to it. And then I went and did the firearms sort of accreditation so I could have a firearm at work again, because I thought that'll help me get into the academy, right? The only good thing was of it was I did my exams on the revolver for my firearms license when I was a security guard, and I thought, okay, and they're like, this is the one the police use. I'm like, awesome. So I joined the academy, and then like now we're doing a transition from revolver to Glocks.
See, I'd done something similar, and I'd had revolver and semi-auto. But what I think the benefit of that was, you actually became familiar with firearms, and you weren't afraid of them. Whereas I saw so many people that just really, they were like scared to touch it.
Yeah.
And then you had the other idiots that had no idea what they were doing and didn't treat it with any care or concern. Yeah, they're like trying to spin it on their finger and stuff. You're like, oh, you're gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are those things where you're like,
So if you are about to enter the academy, I think Anthony's advice is spot on. Keep your head down. Just do your thing. You don't want to be noticed for anything. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it's a necessary evil to what you need to do. But nothing stupid, and common sense prevails, and just put up with some of the stupidity you'll see, because it's just it's a little tiny blimp in the journey, hopefully.
Now, I'm thinking, I want to throw out a challenge to, I know there's a lot of cops, current, former, that watch us and listen to us. So I've got a bit of a challenge for you. On any of our reels or on our YouTube channel, please comment with your best story that you have from the academy. Because I'd love to read out some of those so that people understand the stupidest thing someone did to get kicked out, or the weirdest thing that you see. There was a legend. Did you hear the legend of the moth?
No.
So when I was down at the academy, the legend of the moth was, I think it was the class before me or the one before that. Goulburn Jail is not far from the police academy. So this guy had gone to the pub and got blind drunk and then tried to make his way back to the academy. But it was dark and he's drunk, so he's made his way to the front gates of the prison because he's just followed the spotlights, because they've, the academy's lit up at night, the jail's lit up at night, and they're both really close. So he was called the moth because he just followed the lights, and basically the guards at the front of the prison have rung the academy security going, we've got one of your students here and he doesn't know how to get home. So so tell us your best and worst. Everybody's got a story. We're obviously talking about New South Wales mainly, but I know there's other stories, Victoria, Queensland, AFP, any of the other states. I'd love to hear the similarities and differences, but your best story would be great, and we'll read out some of those on some of our socials.
Absolutely. And thanks to IC Technology as our sponsors, ictechnology.com.au for all things cyber and managed IT services.
And Precision Integrity Services, which Danny is repping today. And you can find us at www.privateinvestigatorsydney.com.au.
Thank you. Like, share and subscribe. See you next time.